Hello, we're looking at another P now in the marketing mix. We're looking at promotion. And some of this is very, very similar to the Unit 1 section. So I'll just run through that very, very quickly. But we're going to adapt it slightly for bigger businesses and businesses that are aiming to grow significantly. You know, we're thinking about businesses that sell abroad. I've got my dog is snoring in the background, so that's what that snorting sound is. She's quite noisy. Anyway, why do businesses promote their products? So it's really important that you understand why businesses use promotion in the first place, because it is quite expensive. So trying to build awareness, especially if you've got a new product, this is going to be really important. If people don't know about your product, they're not going to ask for your product. They're not going to try and find your product in the supermarkets. They're not going to buy it. Because there are so many different products out there. Especially in this globalized world that we live in now, there's so many different products out there, so many different competitors. Information, this is really important if you've got a very technical product. So usually I show my students this advert, which was for the iPhone 6S, and it was called "The Only Thing That's Changed Is ... And there was lots of information in this video about all the new features on the phone. So if you've got a very technologically advanced product, you need to be able to promote those features and what is different about it from the competitors, and try and what we call differentiate it from the competitors. Because again, it's very unlikely that you've got a completely unique product. There will be similar products on the market, or if there aren't similar products at the moment, there will be in the future. And also building a brand image is important. We see here Gucci being advertised with, I think this is James Franco, but my pop culture knowledge is not brilliant. But we can see, Hollywood star there, and people are much more willing to pay a higher price when there's brand associated with it, especially if it's a luxury brand. So here were some of the methods that small businesses might use. Big businesses will use all of these methods as well, but we will look at some additional ones that they use as well in a second. So social media is a huge thing these days. Small businesses use it, large businesses use it, websites, selling through websites, big business. Larger businesses are more going to use national newspapers, but we still see some advertisement going on in local newspapers. PR is going to be a really big thing, so trying to get a brand, a business into the newspaper for favourable news stories, and trying to soften the blow of unfavourable news stories. So those could be, due to unethical practices maybe. And personal selling, depending on the type of business, you might still get personal selling as well. And word of mouth, relying on word of mouth. But larger businesses, remember, they have a larger budget, so they may be able to advertise in far more expensive, using more expensive methods of media to get their message across. So TV, which is by far going to be the most expensive, maybe advertising on other people's websites, radio, more national level radio, newspapers, national newspapers, billboards as well. Now, when we're looking at Unit 1, it was more focusing on local radio, local newspapers. Now it's Unit 2, it's larger businesses, it's LTDs, it's PLCs. We can think of national levels. Sales, my dog is just, I don't know if you can hear this, but she's just snorting away in the back. She's having a really nice nap. Sales promotion. So buy one, get one free. Those kind of bog off offers, they're called. 20% extra free, 2-for-1 deals, or 3-for-2 deals. 3-for-1 would be a good deal, but they don't. I don't think I've seen those. Direct marketing. We'll have a look at these as well. Telemarketing, direct mail. So those are the things you get through the letterbox in the morning. Selling things, double glazing seems to be a big one that comes through the letterbox. Email as well. I get loads of Groupon offers coming through. Sponsorship deals as well, paying for an event or an activity to gain publicity. We'll have a look at a few examples of these in a second. There we go, I've just taken the dog out. So minor interruption. Okay, so sponsorship deals. So we've got some examples here. So Manchester City sponsor, it's rumoured to be around about £80 million a year. So if you're sponsoring someone who's a sporting event or team who's very popular, you're going to pay a lot of money. So that's Etihad Airways, and they're one of their big sponsors. And obviously when Manchester City do well, they're shown on the news a lot. Etihad Airways are shown on the news a lot as well. And I think a lot of people probably hadn't heard of Etihad before they started sponsoring Manchester City, or I certainly hadn't heard of Etihad before they started sponsoring. So it's a good way of getting your brand known over a very wide market, and certainly it's really advertising it to those people who are football watchers and football followers. Another market would be the people that watch X Factor. And this is rumoured to be about £10 million a year. Talk, and they do the little adverts at the beginning and the end that are quite humorous. And Hollyoaks as well, sponsored by Domino's. So some really big brands there. And what's interesting to see that these are really big companies that can afford to spend a lot of money on these sponsorship deals. But they're often used so that you kind of, in a way, piggybacking on the brand of another business. So Manchester City, X Factor, Hollyoaks, and if those brands do well, your brand tends to do well as well. So really important thing is that larger businesses have larger marketing budgets, so they're able to use a variety of promotional methods. So they might use what we call a promotional mix, and that's that combination of methods. So it would be highly unusual that they just use one method. They're going to use a variety of methods to try and appeal to their market. So when they're deciding on this promotional mix, they have to think about the cost. Now, although they do have bigger budgets, there is a cost involved, and they've got to think about what's most effective as well. So if they're appealing to a target market who they know love watching the X Factor, then it would seem reasonable to become a sponsor of the X Factor or have a TV advert during the break in the X Factor. But if if their target market isn't, this kind of TV watching, music, game show loving audience, then even if they have a lot of money, that wouldn't be an effective way to promote their business. They have to think about whether they're trying to promote it to consumers or other businesses. So if you're trying to promote a product to another business, so for example, if it's machinery or photocopiers you're selling, I don't know many people who buy photocopiers for personal use, big industrial photocopiers, they're for offices usually. So that would probably use more personal selling and trade magazines and those types of things, rather than, if we're going back to the example of a TV advertisement, a TV advert during the X Factor. You've got to think about whether the customer is local or national. Now, if it's Unit 2, it's much more likely to be a national business that you're looking at, but it can still be concentrated in a certain area. If you're in London, rather than going for the national newspapers, you might go for those local newspapers, the Evening Standard or something like that, because that a lot of people in that London area are going to read that. And they will see it. And you want to think about how much promotion the competitors are carrying out. If they're carrying out a lot of promotion, you probably need to carry out a lot of promotion as well, so that your name, your brand is there on the customer's mind and it's out there. And you've got to think about the type of promotion that they're using as well. If they're using TV advertisements, you might need to use TV advertisements or radio advertisements or billboards or big social media campaigns. So it depends upon what they're doing as well, but as long as you can justify any suggestion that you make about promotion, I'm thinking particularly when we're thinking about 9-mark questions, if you have to make suggestions about how a large business should promote what they're using, as long as you can justify it, and you can suggest, if you think they've got a big enough budget to do TV advertisements, national TV advertisements, you can suggest that, but just make sure that you include in there that you recognise that that's one of the most expensive forms of promotional methods, and don't shy away from the cheaper methods that we have these days, with social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of those different things that you can use. as well. So these are the specification objectives. So you need to know about advertising, sales promotion, sponsorship, and direct marketing. So those are like direct marketing and like the mail shots, you know, those emails that you might get, or things that you get through your door, advertising on flyers and things like that. And recognize the factors that influence the selection of your marketing mix. So the nature of the market, is it very competitive or is it not very competitive? The nature of your product and what the competitors are doing as well.